Hoops Heaven proudly brings to you Basketball Hustle, featuring your hosts, the writer, Chris Pike, and the scoring machine, Shawn Redhage. Now it's time for another episode of Hoops Heaven's Basketball Hustle.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Hoops Heaven's Basketball Hustle, and we've got the full team back together this week. Thanks to Hoops Heaven, we'll have Shawn Redhage, the scoring machine, joining me in the co-hosting chair. We'll have our Boomerang Award with Damian Martin. We'll have our Tab Touch preview with Matty Knight, who's coming to us live from Melbourne, where he's coaching his WA Country 18s team. And we've got plenty to get through. A lot happening in the world of the NBL right now, so let's not waste any more time. I'm Chris Pike, but let's get to the man himself, a very busy scoring machine, Shawn Redhage. School holidays aren't the quietest time for you, are they?
No, it's pretty busy. Our second week of camps this week, got over 200 kids filling into Bendat Basketball Center for 4 hours of basketball each day. So it's been a lot of fun, but it is busy trying to put the program together. But great to see so many kids picking up a basketball and playing over the school holidays. Now,
did I say right that Hoops Heaven's helping you out at Redhage Basketball as well and offering you some support?
That's right, yeah. We're giving away a couple pairs of shoes to one player and two of their teammates. So hop on our social media. I think it closes in about a day's time. So, thanks to Hoops Heaven helping us out there. And hopefully there'll be 3 players with shiny new basketball boots ready for the upcoming season, which for the Wobble kids starts this weekend.
Yeah, it does. And NBL 1 gets underway as well, which I'll get your thoughts on about later in the show. So stay tuned. We'll have the Damo Award when Damian Martin joins me, thanks to Boomering, and later on the Tab Touch preview with Matty Knight. Just touching on Matty, did you ever get the feeling he'd be a coach when you were his teammate for those years at the Wildcats, Shawn?
Oh, look, Matty was always he was a clever basketball player, and you knew he studied the game and just seemed to always be in the right position. So I think it was only natural for him to kind of go into that route. I mean, he is a quieter guy, but I'm sure just his experience and being able to relate with the kids, and his parents are teachers as well, so he's kind of got teaching in his blood. So I'm sure he's doing a fantastic job with the WA Country boys, and I'll be interested to see if they match up against his home state of Tasmania and see if he can knock off his home state at some stage.
Yeah, absolutely. I've really enjoyed his insights here on the show, so we'll touch base with him once again later on. Now, plenty of basketball action to get through. Every day we've got at least one game in the NBL right now, Shawn, so things are moving along pretty quickly. Let's just take a look back at what we've seen over the last 8 days, and then I'll get your thoughts on how you think things are stacking up. So round 13 got underway way back on last Wednesday night with the Brisbane Bullets beating the Illawarra Hawks 88-82. Then we saw the Perth Wildcats beat the Sydney Kings in Sydney 73-69. Then the Illawarra Hawks got one back over the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix 82-80. And Saturday night we saw the winning streak of the Wildcats come to an end in Adelaide. The 36ers won 83-68. We saw Melbourne United beat the New Zealand Breakers 84-78. Southeast Melbourne Phoenix win in Sydney over the Kings 98-84. Then the Hawks beat the Taipans in a close one 82-80. Melbourne United beat the Brisbane Bullets on Monday night 98-89. And then in an amazing game in Launceston on Tuesday, the Wildcats beat the Breakers 85-79. And then round 14 got underway with another tight one in Cairns on Wednesday night. The Taipans winning 91-88. Out of all of that, Shawn, what jumps out at you?
A lot of NBL basketball. It's been a unique season from that point of view. I'll be interested to actually hear the players' perspective on so many games, the travel. I mean, the Wildcats playing 3 games in 1 week, and a few other teams doing that as well. So it was you're looking at the scores, and I just love the fact how close they are. I mean, every game is coming down to the wire, and even if you look at that 36ers Wildcats game where 36ers, ended up winning by 15, but the Wildcats still had a chance there in the fourth quarter. And that's what you want. I mean, that gives you that there is parity in the league. I know there's discrepancy between United 17-5 and the Taipan 6-17, but I don't think that you look at those two teams, there's not that much gap in the talent there.
They played
and
twice. They played each other twice over Easter, and they're both pretty competitive games.
Yeah, so I mean that's what you want in the league. I think that we've gotten rid of the point system and we've built in a better system, I think, into it, and it's it's exciting. And there's some of the games were just incredible and interesting how they all kind of played out. So that that 36ers Wildcats game, I mean, some of the shots that the 36ers were hitting just goes to show the 36ers have been struggling going into that game, but when you find a team that's on, and even Pender's knocking down threes, so knock one or two shots down and gives everyone else confidence.
Now, speaking of that game, Damian Martin will talk about it later. So Sunday Detch did a terrific performance on Bryce Cotton, holding him to 10 points, 3 of 15 shooting, and then Bryce continued that struggle into the game on Tuesday in Launceston. Didn't score in the first quarter. He didn't make a field goal in the first half. I think he was 0 of 5 shooting by half time with 5 points all at the foul line. But then you just can't rule him out. That he had missed, I think it was 17 3-point shots in a row, but then he hits that amazing shot at the buzzer to send it into overtime, and he finishes the game on a night where you would think he struggled with 34 points. I mean, have you seen anything like it?
No, I haven't. I mean, I don't know what's more amazing, that shot he hit or the fact that Bryce Cotton had missed 17 straight threes. Yeah. I mean, I don't think he has ever done that in his career. He could probably kick one and make 1 out of 17. So that was pretty remarkable. And then to hit the biggest one, right after he just missed a shot where it was a tough shot, but he got a good look, was pretty remarkable. And then to come down, one thing he didn't do is just fall in love with the 3-pointer. I know he shot a lot of threes, but he seemed to attack the basket a lot more, and he drew a couple fouls and tried to be a little bit of a playmaker at times as well. So he finished with 34, and you just look at what the Wildcats just put the ball in his hands. I mean, for the last probably 15 minutes of that game, every time down the court, the ball was in Bryce Cotton's hands. He didn't always take the shot, but he was making the play, and they're just playing right through him. And if he has an off night like he did in Adelaide, the Wildcats can get beaten, and that's probably going to be the key. But that's not going to happen too often. So credit for it takes a lot of guts and skill and confidence to be able to step up and still have a night when you're having a shocker. So credit to Bryce Cotton. Probably just another one of those stories we'll tell about him when his career's all done.
Basketball is an amazing sport where you can still put the ball in the hole and you're actually hurting your team. So William McDowell-White trying to miss that second free throw up the other end, which would have meant that had he missed it, the Wildcats just wouldn't have got a good shot off, and Bryce would have never got to make that story for us to tell. I mean, what was going through your mind when you saw that foul shot that he tried to miss ended up banking in, and it just opened the door for Trevor Gleeson to call that timeout and advance the ball?
Well, that was the other part that was pretty remarkable about that game as well. McDowell-White hits the go-ahead shot. That was his first shot that he hit all game. I don't know exactly what he was at that point, but he was 0 for something until he hit the game go-ahead layup, and then he has the 2 free throws. And actually on TV, I couldn't really tell that he tried to bank it. The commentators were talking about it. But then, as they were talking about, it did make sense. I mean, that's what you want to do. A team not able to advance the ball if the ball's, if it's a missed shot, and you want to, you'll live with a 3/4 court 3-pointer loss than a tie by Bryce Cotton. So, but trying to bank a free throw in is tough.
It is, yeah.
But also, I'm not a big fan of trying to bank it. I feel like you just try and shoot it just a little bit to the left or to the right and hit the rim and have it go sideways.
Yeah.
Rather than trying to bank, hit the rim and a miss. I think that's a little bit tougher.
Have you done it in a game before?
Hey, yeah, I have tried to intentionally miss a few more when my team was down, say down 4 or something, and you need to or down 3, and that, you know, if you make the shot, you're still down 2, that you might try and get a rebound at the last little bit. So, but it's, you know, I think the strategy was right. The execution wasn't great. And I'll be interested in maybe a few teams might be practicing that this week.
Sure.
Hey, can we miss a free throw intentionally? Hopefully that doesn't hurt their free throw percentages as well.
No, I think you'd always take the win though. I think you can excuse, unless you're Daniel Johnson right now. He's on I'm not sure what he went last night, but going to last night's game, he had hit 20 free throws in a row. So maybe if you're on a streak like that, you do think about it. Now we're seeing some terrible injuries right now in the league as well, and 2 ruptured Achilles to probably the 2 leading candidates for the Rookie of the Year race over the last week or so. Shawn, what was your reaction when you first saw Jack White go down, and we had it confirmed that he'd ruptured his Achilles, and then only a day or 2 later, DJ Vasiljevic did the same thing?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and it's a shame for the league. I mean, these 2 guys were just outstanding. They're fun to watch. I mean, I love Jack White and what he brings defensively, his energy. You know, he's a better athlete than I even thought. Sometimes it can kind of not look as impressive, say, in a college environment, but in the NBL environment, he just looks outstanding out there. And DJ's, I mean, we've talked about him. He was my favorite at the start of the year, and unfortunately, probably, you know, this injury takes him out of the running, but it's a debilitating injury as well. I mean, it's a long recovery. I know Damian Martin had that injury, and it's not an easy one to come back, and you're probably always going to have a little bit in there feeling. And you know, these are non-contact injuries as well. You just wonder, does the schedule have something to do with it, and the amount of games that these guys are playing? And they're coming out of being in a college environment where they're, you know, training for a couple months. Yeah, I mean, they're training year round, but their real season is only, you know, 3-4 months long. Where these guys have been ready to play for a long time now before the season started in January. So it's been a long time, and you know, they're going to be playing 8 more games this season. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a few more injuries towards the end of this. Teams might need to be mindful, kind of similar to what NBA teams are doing, and resting some of their stars. I could see Melbourne United, the Wildcats, if they kind of got a comfortable top 2 position, they might rest a Bryce Cotton come down the stretch, or a Jacques Landale, just to make sure they're 100% come finals time.
Well, touching on that, I'm curious to get your thoughts, especially probably with Isaac Humphries at Adelaide. Now that, I mean, it's going to be tough for them to make the playoffs from here. He's potentially got an NBA future again, another chance based on what he did deliver at the start of this season. Do you risk coming back if you're Isaac for the last 3 or 4 weeks?
Look, I still think you do. I think there's you want to get out there and even, you know, potentially for, teams want to see that you can come back from an injury and that you're going to be healthy. And, you know, I don't know exactly where his contract situation is, but if he's available, teams are much more likely to throw some big coin at him if he comes back and he has a few good games to finish off the season, than if, you know, he's injured and can't come back. So I still think those guys will come back. It's not, I don't think the NBL's the NBA yet in that regards. Well, they'll just sit guys for the rest of the year. You know, and the guys want to play. I mean,
I'm sure he wants to play. I just wonder if the advice will be that he gets, maybe he doesn't. It's not in his best interest. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I just know, personally for me, I'd want to get back out on the court.
Oh, and I'm sure he wants to. There's no doubt about that. Now, a couple more guys injured. Tai Webster at the Breakers and Vic Law at the Bullets, who has absolutely been ruled out for the rest of the season. I mean, are they devastating blows for those two teams? I mean, can you see the Breakers probably already can't make it? Does that rule the Bullets out of contention just about too?
I wouldn't rule the Bullets out, but I think it's going to make it tougher. I guess it depends on if they can get Lamar Patterson back playing at a level that we've seen him in the past. And, he's back playing now. I think he's still probably a few games away from probably hitting his stride. So they're going to need him. And I mean, Sobey's having an outstanding year. It's probably, hasn't been talked about on our show enough, but he's playing at an unbelievable level. So I'd like to see, a Sobey playing at the level he is and a Lamar Patterson. I think they could give a good crack to get into that top four with the big guys they have and Hodgson and Frawling as well, starting to find his groove. So, it is tough. Vic Law was playing really well, and those two guys, Sobey and Law, were having a bit of a connection. And then you got Tai Webster. It's unfortunate. I mean, the news out today is that the Breakers are actually going to get some home games, which is great. But I'm sure they would have loved to seen the Webster brothers playing together in front of the home crowd there in New Zealand. Now,
just finally, before we wrap up this first segment and get to Damian Martin, are you expecting to see any teams making any personnel moves? It's getting to the point where it's almost too late. I think they have to play 9 games this season to qualify for finals. Most teams have somewhere between 13 and 15 games left, so they'll have to make that move soon. Are you expecting any more moves in the next couple of weeks, or do you think the teams, that what they've got now is what they'll stick with?
A team that I could see making some changes would possibly be the Hawks or the Phoenix.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially depending on where they see Mitch Creek, that stuff playing out. And maybe if there's some Australians coming back or Kiwis coming back from Europe.
Yeah.
I think the Hawks are probably one big guy away from being competitive as well. So,
here we go.
I could see them.
Will Magnay is now available. Does somebody sign him?
Well, I think any team would put their hands up. I could see the Wildcats actually looking at Will Magnay.
Yeah.
They could use a big guy in that regard. So I think there'll be a bit of interest there. Any of those teams. I mean, obviously he's got that connection with the Bullets. I'm not sure he's a great fit back at the Bullets with Hodgson, with Frawling.
I think they've become way too big. They got Harrelson there too.
Yeah, and I think the King, Phoenix got some pretty good bigs there, but I could see the Hawks and Wildcats really trying to look at Magnay seriously.
Well, it would be a great idea for him to sign at the Hawks potentially too, because if he wants to be playing at the Olympics, why not go and play for the Olympic coach?
Well, there you go. That's, I hadn't made that connection yet, but you mentioned that now. I think that, might have to ask Gorgon about that. Hopefully we can get him on a show in the future.
Yeah, that's our plan. So that'll be absolutely something we can ask him about. Now, we'll need to update our Hoop 7 Player of the Year award at some point, Sean. I'm not sure you've got your most recent votes in front of you right now.
Oh, no, I've got them, Pike.
Oh, you do?
Prepared.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us your most recent votes, and then we'll update that leaderboard.
Well, we kind of mentioned briefly, but, Harvey, he had an outstanding week. I know they lost to the Bullets early, but, to get the win versus Phoenix and then Taipans, both actually the same score, 82-80, was those were some great games, and he had a blinder as well. So he gets 5 votes. DJ's playing, he's so consistent, but he's kind of taken his game over the last week up to another level. He gets 4 votes. Creaky, Mitch Creek is, getting back to his self that we saw early in the season. He gets 3. Landale gets 2. And then Cotton, although he struggled, to be able to bounce back and still get a win. The Wildcats still went 2-1. They're not playing. Haven't been playing great over the last week. Cotton gets 1 vote as well.
Well, he still had 34 points in that game. It's tough to ignore. So that means our leaderboard is interesting, Sean. So Tyler Harvey closes the gap on Bryce Cotton a little bit. Mitch Creek takes a little bit of a jump up. Jock Landale gets into double figures, and Daniel Johnson, that's probably his first votes for a long time. He gets up to 8 votes as well. So as good as Bryce Cotton's been, certainly Tyler Harvey, Nathan Sobey, John Mooney, they're right in contention still, thanks to Hoop 7.
Yeah, they are, and I think I don't think the Hawks are anywhere near top 4 without Tyler Harvey. No. I think that's I'm looking at the list and it's looking how it should be to me.
I think so.
And there's a few more rounds to go. That if you get a couple 5-point rounds, you're sitting right at the top of the leaderboard. So, it's still up for grabs at this stage.
Absolutely. So thanks to Hoop 7 for that Player of the Year award. When we come back, we'll have the Damo Award thanks to Boomering. Then I'll catch up with Maddie Knight for the Tab Touch preview. And then I'll be back with the Scoring Machine to wrap up the show. Okay, back here on Hoop 7's Basketball Hustle, and thanks to Boomering, I'm joined by the one and only Damian Martin once again. Damo, I think it's a pretty busy time in your little world. How are you handling things right now?
Yeah, it has been. Obviously, there's a few things going on since retiring from basketball itself. I'm lucky enough to be a part owner of a real estate company and doing some sales myself, so that keeps me busy. But then also there's a foundation I'm involved with where I oversee the basketball side of it up in Roebourne in the Pilbara, the northwest of WA, and as an incentive for attending school, staying out of trouble with the law, attending our workshops and training sessions, then 3 of the kids that have been, well, they've ticked every box to be honest, and attended all the training sessions and all the workshops. They're being rewarded this weekend, so they're flying down to Perth, some of which for the first time, and they'll go to the West Coast Eagles game on Friday. Then they've got iFly Saturday, and then some 10-pin bowling Saturday afternoon, and a nice little dinner by the beach. And then Sunday they're going to go to Gold Class for the first time. So this was all on their bucket list. Some of these things are on their bucket list. Mm-hmm. So a Gold Class movie to watch Godzilla, and then head to the Wildcats game where I'll be lucky enough to sit courtside with them, enjoy the game, and hopefully see the Wildcats get a win. And they can go back to their school in Roebourne, and hopefully, if they've had an amazing time, that'll be enough for, 2, 3, 4 more kids to say, all right, I'm going to straighten up a little bit, stay out of trouble, attend these workshops, go to school. And if they do that, we'll be more than happy to bring them down at next school holidays. So, yeah, it's very exciting because it's something that I've been involved in theory for a long time, but now for it to be on the ground, up and running and having our first rewards trip. Yeah, I'll be chaperoning, and you'll find me out there doing a lot of gutter balls at 10-pin bowling and probably getting scared at Godzilla. So, yeah, big weekend coming up.
Fantastic. On the home front too, Damo, anyone that's moved house knows that that's not an easy thing to do. To do it with 2 kids, I assume it's a little bit tougher as well.
Oh, yeah, especially when you have a 2-year-old who nicknamed Barnacles. She just sticks to you, does not want to let go. So my poor wife, it's mainly Brittany she wants to go to, but while you're trying to lift heavy items and you've got someone clinging to a leg or wanting to be picked up, it's been not as smooth as we would have liked, but yeah, we're just moving a little bit closer to where our daughters are going to school currently, and seemed like a good idea. And now that we've done it, I'm adamant I will never move again. It has not been a fun week or so, but we're getting there. We're getting there.
No, it's always a big process. Now, what about on a basketball front? I've got to start by asking about Bryce Cotton. Have you ever seen a game like that one he had in Launceston on Tuesday night? He looked terrible for the first half. Scoreless in the first quarter, 5 points. I think it was 1 of 6 shooting by half time. By late in the fourth quarter, he had missed 17 straight 3-pointers. Then he hits the 3-pointer to send the game into overtime, and he ends the game with 34 points. Have you ever seen anything like it?
It's incredible, and if anyone was going to do it, well, the 0 from 16 is the only surprising part of it. But if anyone was going to be able to hit another game-winning shot, he is the fittest player in the league, in my opinion. He is just a freak. But it's the first time I've actually thought he looks fatigued at times. Yep. So whether it's, they've been on the road so much, it's, he gets hit every time he cuts, big minutes, relied upon a score, so on and so forth. First time I've ever seen him fatigued. I actually verbalised that to a mate I was watching the game with, and then he got 3 layups in a row on blow-bys.
Yep.
He gets them back in the game. He hits a step-back long 2, and then before you know it, he's hit a double-clutch 3-pointer with 1.7 seconds left on the clock to tie it up, and then he just took it. I mean, they started down 5 in OT, but then he got going, and the rest is history. But that finish, I've actually been a part of a very, very similar one. Years ago, we were playing Cairns when Mark Worthington was with the Taipans.
Yep, I remember.
And same situation, few seconds left on the clock or less than 2 left on the clock. If you miss the second free throw, you're relying on the home team or the team that's losing, which was Perth, to grab the defensive rebound, land with it, turn, and throw a full-court shot to win the game or to tie the game. Wortho tried missing the shot. Instead, just like what happened against New Zealand last night, the shot is banked in whilst attempting to miss it. Time out, advance to halfway. I think Jaron Johnson might have hit the shot for us in that Cairns game, sent us to overtime or the win, and then this time it was Bryce. So, yeah, sometimes fortune favours. I mean, you need luck to go your way at times.
Yeah.
And, that was an escape for the Wildcats, but it was off the back in the end of 31 points that were all earned, and most of which, if you tell me Bryce goes to 31, I'm thinking, 15 are from behind the three-point line.
Yep.
28 scored inside the three-point line, and only that one game-tying one on the buzzer. So an incredible performance that even when he does look fatigued, even when he looks down and out, he still managed to pull off miraculous things, get himself to a new level, get blow-bys, keep drawing fouls on the opposition. And sometimes the best way to score points when you're not seeing them drop from behind the three-point line is get to the free throw line, and he did exactly that. So he's just an inspiring player, and I think last night in particular, seeing how tired he was, how hard he was still trying, I think that's why guys like Nordo, Kev White, Jesse, like everyone that had their stints, Mooney was down. The 2 superstars they've been relying upon, it was the role players that kept them in the game and at times got a lead, but in the end it came down to Bryce being Bryce and got them the win when it counted. But that was the most inspiring win last night because it wasn't dependent on the 3 big names stepping up. They did for the last 10 or 12 minutes, but it wasn't the full game.
Now, because during your career in Perth, the New Zealand Breakers were your great rivals, do you still have some of that feeling that's still there when you watch the 2 teams play now, or do you have a little bit does a little bit of your heart go out to the Breakers when you see a loss like they had last night?
Yeah, for me it has changed a little bit just because so many names and faces have changed.
Yep.
Webster and Abercrombie, I believe, would be the only 2 that I played against on a regular basis in postseason play.
Yep.
I'm looking at the guys on both sides, and Jesse was there. Those 2 names I mentioned from New Zealand were there, but it's pretty much 2 completely different organisations. Sure. And that rivalry was built off 2 clubs consistently battling it out for a championship, whereas the rivalry we have with Adelaide, that stemmed from day one purely because of proximity. Perth and Adelaide, they're the closest city to us. So that's always going to be a rivalry, regardless of names on the back of a jersey. That New Zealand-Perth one seems to have died off a little bit, and that's probably starting to get replaced with, maybe a Perth-Melbourne or a Perth-Sydney in particular, especially with the Casper Ware, Bryce Cotton battles that seem to be going on and being enjoyable to watch. So, I've always had an immense amount of respect for the Breakers, but it does seem to be a bit of a turning of the tables, and it's 2 other teams that kind of stepped up, and New Zealand are battling out a little bit. But Abercrombie and Webster, especially on Abercrombie's 350th game, he eclipses Penny for most threes made, who I rate as possibly the greatest shooter I've had to guard. And it's just those 2 guys I tip my hat to, will forever respect. But as far as the rivalry of Perth versus New Zealand, I think it's changing a little bit.
I want to ask about the Illawarra Hawks one as well. Now that you've retired, do you feel a little bit sorry for them? They've lost 34 of their last 35 times that they've come to Perth, and it becomes relevant this week because they're about to come back to Perth to play on Friday night. Obviously, Brian Gordon's only been there for one of those, so he brings a whole different level of probably confidence to the group that they might not have previously had. But did you ever feel sorry for the Hawks back in some of those days?
No, I never felt sorry for an opposition. Never felt sorry insofar as the team they had. There were circumstances I did feel I wish were better for some clubs. And in particular, you know, when Illawarra were put into liquidation, when I heard that their players weren't getting paid, that adversity, you know, these guys, I went through it in Sydney with the Sydney Spirit. And it's a tough mental battle. You know, I've got a mortgage to pay, I've got credit card bills, you know, I've got to go out and perform and put that all away for the next 40 minutes while I'm on a basketball court. And over the course of a season, when there's all these, you know, rumours that you're not going to get paid and then it eventually happens, you know, it can take its toll. But credit to Illawarra, they always played hard. Mm-hmm. They were always so hard to beat. And even though we had that, you know, we have that number of wins against them in Perth, you better believe that when you see the schedule come out and you know you've got Illawarra coming up, you don't rely on history. You don't rely on stats. You rely on going out there and you better play good basketball if you want to continue that type of thing. Definitely not going to be handed to you. Illawarra aren't scared of playing in Perth, even if history will show they've done it once in the last 34 or 35 games. Do
you remember that one game that they won? Does that stick out to you?
I do. I was injured, so that's not why we lost. But because I was injured, it meant I probably spent more time being able to see, you know, the Hawks' reaction afterwards. And I remember it just seemed to have meant the world to them. And I believe they were actually quite emotional in the locker room. But some of the older guys, apparently got quite emotional in there because they had tasted losses for year after year. And you've got to remember, a lot of these losses were in postseason. Absolutely. I think still to date, every time the Illawarra Hawks, or maybe it's just over the last 12 years, but for the last 12 years when the Hawks have made postseason play,
lost to the Wildcats.
They've lost the Wildcats, whether it's a semi-final or grand final matchup. Now,
I think it's five playoff series in a row, I think it is.
Yeah, so it's incredible when those things just seem to happen. You know, a lot of it's by chance, but then you hear these numbers rattled off or these statistics, and you're like, oh, wow, that's crazy. The players don't realise it until they read about it or hear it on the radio. But then you look back on it and you're like, yeah, we did face up in that battle and it went our way, but could easily have gone a semi-final win to them or a championship to them. So, yeah, we had a lot of great tussles. And I just mentioned New Zealand earlier. Right behind New Zealand for 5 or 6 of those years were Illawarra. We were just battling it out in semi-finals and grand finals.
I imagine behind New Zealand, they're probably the team that you played the most playoff games against, probably.
Yeah, I think you're right. And they always had the underdog tag with them. And they never used that. The players never used that as an excuse whatsoever. And we always knew we were in for a hard-fought battle. But I was going to say, that's why I changed it to players, actually, just subtly. Bevo liked to play up the underdog tag. But hey, he's a mastermind. He's a great coach. For sure. So whatever's going to fire up his players, and boy, were they fired up at times.
Now, last week when we spoke, we talked about how horrible it was for Jack White to rupture his Achilles. And now we've got DJ Vasiljevic doing the same thing. They're probably 1 and 2 in Rookie of the Year voting right now. How much do you feel for both of them?
Yeah, it's so frustrating when you tear your Achilles tendon because you know you've got nothing to do but surgery, you know, crutches, moon boot, and just watching. Like you're just watching from the sideline, wishing you could be out there. And it's not like other injuries where they've sped it up, you know, at one time with ACLs, all of a sudden you could be back in, 4 to 6 months. Obviously, a lot of those people retore it, so they put that on hold. It's more of a 9-month injury. But an Achilles is best case 9 months, more than likely closer to 12 to be, you know, you might be out there playing after 9 months, but it's going to be 12 months before you're back to where you were pre it. So similar to Jack, got to work. I mean, DJ was having an incredible year. I probably had him for Rookie of the Year, slightly ahead of Giddy and Wyatt. But, you know, he's going to have to work on other aspects of his game. And with someone like Kev Lish mentoring, this is where Lish is an assistant coach at the Kings. I can really see stepping up to the plate, keeping him switched on, keeping him acting like a professional athlete, improve his weaknesses that he had, you know, his rookie season, which were very minimal. But anywhere where he can get better that doesn't require him running around, he will. And I think that's between who DJ is as a person and having Lish as a mentor for the next, 6 or 9 months.
Now, I don't know if you remember, but back when we were doing our season predictions and I asked both you and Shawn who your Rookie of the Year would be, and you both said it would be DJ, and that caught me a little bit by surprise, probably just because I didn't know as much about him as I knew perhaps of a Josh Giddey or Mojave King and a couple of those guys coming into the season. What was it that had you so confident that DJ would be as good as he turned out to be, and did he even turn out better than you expected in his rookie season?
Yeah, he was better than I expected. I thought he'd average about 10 points a game, and I think every single game he played, he scored 10 or more. Or at one stage was on that So the way he shoots the ball, the way he played in university, like he led a SEC team. He was their scorer. He was their go-to guy. It's just watching him play. Sorry, not SEC, but he was ACC. In one of the biggest conferences for college basketball, he was a leader and a hell of a scorer. And knowing the confidence he has in his ability, just from the little bit of time I got to spend with him a few years ago in Perth, I just thought with only 2 imports with the new rules for this year, he's going to get minutes. And with those minutes, he is going to put points on the board. And yeah, he's been brilliant. He's helped Sydney win a lot of games. He'll be sorely missed because he essentially took on that third import role for being a reliable scorer. And now you got to look at the roster and say, how much longer is Xavier Cooks out for? Will Brad Newley step up? But who's going to be our consistent third scorer? Jordan Hunter's doing a good job. But yeah, he will really, really be missed. But was having an incredible season. And yeah, you're right. Shawnee and I both predicted him to be Rookie of the Year pre-season, and he certainly wasn't disappointing.
No, absolutely not. Now, of course, Damo, we're here thanks to Boomering for the Damo Award. We're looking at the best defensive player of the NBL season so far, and we're seeing some great defensive efforts. So the effort, it's tough to give him a vote because of what Bryce ended up doing, but I think we deserve to give a little bit of recognition to Tom Abercrombie for guarding Bryce Cotton for pretty much 45 minutes last night, even though he ended up conceding 30-plus points.
Yeah, and it's funny. You watch Abercrombie, who is definitely one of the best defenders in the league still after 350 games, and every three is heavily contested. It's not like as a defender, you're like, okay, Bryce is now 16 for his last 3 games. No, you are fighting over every screen. You are contesting every shot. But that also is going to make you susceptible to, Bryce going off the dribble and getting to the rim. But that's where the help needed to be there. Abercrombie, you get in foul trouble if you test yourself the way Abercrombie did against Bryce. If you want to guard that tight, contest absolutely everything and play on him for a full game, you're going to get in foul trouble. And credit to Abercrombie. Yes, he got to the free throw line a few times. Yes, he gave up some layups. He made it tough. For 35 minutes, he made it very tough for Bryce. He definitely deserved a shout-out. Another person who doesn't get any points this week for me but deserves a shout-out is Jock. In Melbourne, he was a beast on the boards, blocking shots. I thought he really stepped up. And when they get going defensively, Melbourne United are very, very good. Yeah. We talk about their skill at the other end, but a lot of it comes from stops. And just as the Wildcats pride themselves on getting stops and that leads to their best offense, Melbourne, you can put in that category. They are just as good, if not better, defensively than any other team in the league. And I thought Jock in particular was fantastic.
Now, your one vote for this week, it was probably about 6 or 7 weeks ago, you first mentioned this guy, and I thought it was a bit of a joke, and, I thought, not nice one, but I actually think now he's legitimately one of the best defenders in the whole league, and he's probably only doing it on about 10 or 15 minutes a game.
You're exactly right. So he didn't get much court burn. Southeast Melbourne played a double header. Le'afa only plays 5 minutes in game 1, but in game 2 they back it up against the Kings, and he plays 20-plus minutes in one of the toughest assignments there is in the NBL. And that's obviously, Casper Ware and trying to keep him quiet. Casper, played 37 minutes. He goes 6 of 14 from the field. Don't get me wrong, 2 of 6 from 3. He still finished with 20 points. But in the moments that really counted, Casper finishes with a plus-minus of negative 14. And I want to say a lot of that came when Le'afa was guarding him. So big shout-out to him. He's doing it every time. He picks up full court. He turns you. He's a pest. And it just grinds you down. So I thought, like I mentioned a few weeks ago, I'm like, hey, have you seen this kid? He's done some good things out there. Now it's getting backed up by Simon Mitchell, and he backed him to play 20-plus minutes. So, at one point there, I think you're going to hear him a lot more as a defensive specialist. He can definitely shoot the ball, but he could really find a niche in this league, getting under the opposition's skin and then running and controlling the team from the point guard position. So, doing very, very well the last few weeks.
Absolutely. Now, 2 votes. No surprise to see Justin Simon back in the mix, and geez, he's a menace, isn't he? When he's attacking the offensive glass and when he's playing, he's up and in defense, and just the energy he plays at, it's pretty infectious.
Yeah, reads the game well. Can pick passes, jump in the shoot through the passing lane. So, obviously against Cairns, they have a big win. Harvey Harvey v. Bryce this week is going to be so exciting. Don't get me wrong. It's the matchup everyone wants to see at the offensive end. But getting out there and seeing Simon up close and in person, I can't wait because his athleticism is incredible. But some people are amazingly athletic, but they don't utilise it or use it to their strength at the defensive end. He does utilise it. Now, he was brilliant again. He doesn't get the amount of blocks or steals. He had 2 steals in that win over Cairns, another couple of steals. But he's everywhere. And defensively, he comes up with big rebounds. He's contesting shots. If he's not getting the block, he's making his guy, add that little bit of more air to the floater, and it usually results in a miss. So, 26 minutes a game. He's slowly creeping up there a little bit more on minutes played. Would love when that finally gets to about 30, but I'm not going to tell Gord what to do. This is purely from a spectator's point of view that enjoys watching him play defense. But, I had to give 2 points to Simon. I've left him out a few weeks when he easily could have been in there as a points take-up, but a votes taker. But, 2 points, thoroughly deserved. Simon again. He's back.
And speaking of back, 3 votes. This man there was a patch where he was getting votes every week, and I think since we challenged him to take on Bryce and Sobey in the 1 week, I think he's got a little bit quiet defensively, but Saturday night against the Wildcats, he was back to his very best. Yeah,
a 9-game winning streak came to the end for the Wildcats, and, off the back of, I think one of the better performances I've seen in a long time. Sunday, Dad's 37 minutes he was out there, and I want to say of those 37 minutes, 36 and a half he was guarding Bryce, which is, when I said Bryce was the fittest player in the league, Sunday's top 5 as well. They're ultimate professionals off the court. Their diet is impeccable. They stretch, they train, they're just the ultimate professions. And that is why they can play at a top level for huge minutes, and 37 minutes guarding the best offensive player in the league and holding him to, not season lows, but percentages that are well below averages.
I didn't hit a 3, did he?
No threes. So he went 3 of 15 from the field, 3 of 8 from the 2-point line, 0 of 7 from 3. Now, look, some of that has nothing to do with Sunday. Sometimes you just don't shoot well, but they were contested. They were all contested by Sunday. It's just that Bryce is a superstar, and sometimes his great offense will beat good defense. Sunday was good the whole game, and at times he was spectacular. And so Bryce played 31 and almost 32 minutes. So Sunday even played more minutes than Bryce and just made it tough all night for him. So, Sunday Debts 3.6 week. Adelaide get a huge win over their arch rivals, the Perth Wildcats, and their 9-game streak. And played some great basketball at both ends of the court, but none better at the defensive end than Sunday.
Absolutely. Now, if you want to know how that affects the leaderboard, because that means that all 3 of those guys move up the leaderboard a little bit more, check out our social media pages at Hoop7's Basketball Hustle. Damo doesn't want to know the leaderboard because he doesn't want to be prejudiced moving forward, and we love Damo for that. But I love your insight once again, Damo. Thank you for that. Thanks to Boomering for making this possible, and enjoy this big weekend you've got ahead, and I look forward to finding out how it all goes next week.
Sounds good, mate. Huge weekend coming up. Enjoy your basketball.
Thanks, Damo. Okay, back here on Hoop 7's Basketball Hustle, and it's been a big show. We've had the full team back together. Thanks to Damian Martin for his Damo Award. Thanks to Boomering. Thanks to Matty Knight for that Tab Touch preview. And now I'm back with the scoring machine. We're still desperately trying to raise some money, Shawn, thanks to Tab Touch for your charities. Let's hope you can come up with something for Lifeline WA. You went mighty close again last week, but if you have a look at these games, we've got Thursday night, we've got a big game, then 2 on Friday, 2 Saturday, 2 on Sunday. Let me know your thoughts on what you're expecting.
Yeah, I think probably be a surprise there for people, but I think Kings will get the Phoenix being at home. I've got the Bullets being the Breakers. It's a heartbreaker versus the Wildcats last game, and sometimes it's tough to come back from that. The Wildcats going to be at home in a full house against the Hawks. I think they take that one. Phoenix at home versus the 36ers. I'm actually going to pick... It's a hard one, but because I think the 36ers are playing better, but I think the Phoenix, if they drop the one against the Kings, they're going to get that one at home. And then you got the Kings versus the Taipans. If Machado's still out, I think although they got the win last time, I think it's going to be hard for them to get that win against the Kings. So Kings could get 2 wins this round. United at home versus the Hawks, 2 tough games for the Hawks this week, and then the Wildcats at home. I'll be sidelined for that one. Wildcats versus the Breakers. I'm going to go with the Wildcats, but let's hope it's as good as a game as it was the last time they met down in Launceston.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're right as well. Look at the Hawks. They've got to play the top 2 teams on the road this weekend, so good luck to Brian Goorjian, and we look forward to hopefully catching up with him here on a bonus show shortly. Now, we've seen the rest of the season schedule for the NBL release now, Shawn. We finally know when it'll be finishing. The last game of the regular season will be Sunday, June 6th, and that'll be Melbourne United hosting the Adelaide 36ers. So we finally have an end date. And, I mean, the best news out of it all is that for the last couple of weeks, the New Zealand Breakers will get to go home and play some home games. I mean, what a relief that must be for them.
Yeah, it would be. And I hope the Breakers fans get out and support them. Obviously they're probably outside of making the finals contention, but to be able to finally get some live basketball there, and they've got some talented players that I think could hopefully set themselves up for next year and kind of build some momentum there. But yeah, great news. Breakers finally get to play at home, and fingers crossed that continues, and they can kind of complete the schedule as it is. Although, as we've seen, they're probably going to still need to be some adjustments, possibly.
Well, imagine if they have it taken away from them now after having it promised. That's just hope the world isn't that cruel.
Yeah, that would be cruel. That time where you just finally feel you can relax a little bit. Let's hope they get to enjoy some hometown. I'm sure they'll be excited to see their family and friends.
Now, on a local level as well, the NBL 1 West competition, first time under the NBL 1 banner, the old SBL has now become an NBL 1 competition. It gets underway this weekend with a full round of fixtures on Friday and Saturday night, but it doesn't look like we're going to be seeing the scoring machine as part of it.
No, you won't see me out there running around, but there's plenty of good talent in the NBL West this year, so I'm excited to see how it plays out. There's some some good players coming back from college, and I'm excited. I hope the WA community gets out and supports the NBL West, NBL 1 West. I think it's it's great that there's an alignment, and I think that it's going to be a competitive environment. That some teams have done some really good recruiting, and I think it's there's some great basketball out there. So if you're living in WA, get out and support your local NBL West 1 West team.
Yeah, absolutely. And on a personal note, for the first time ever, my 2 worlds are colliding. So basically, during an NBL season, I'm pretty much working full time with my different NBL duties, and then on a normal SBL or NBL 1 season, that pretty much takes up my full time duties, and all of a sudden, for the next couple of months, I'm going to have to juggle both at the same time. So I wish myself good luck for the next 2 months, Shawn. I'll be looking forward to seeing when they don't collide anymore and I can have the NBL 1 season on its own for the last couple of months. But it's going to be an interesting period of time. But I'm looking forward to having so much basketball. It's a better problem to have than the opposite problem, as you're probably finding right now, Shawn. You're probably involved in basketball more right now than you were while you were playing.
That's right. I think I'm on the basketball court more now than even when I was with the Wildcats. I think the other day at camp, I took something like 23,000 steps at basketball camp.
Wow.
It's great to, basketball is booming. Yeah, I guess it's a feast or famine. And at the moment, we're feasting on basketball, NBL 1 West, NBL, NBA. Playoffs are going to be coming up soon. So, it's a great time of year, and let's hope it can continue.
And we're lucky enough to be able to talk about it here on the show. Hoop 7 are making that possible, and then Tab Touch are supporting us with the Tab Touch preview each and every week, and Boomering brings us the Damo Award each and every week. So thank you for their support. We just wouldn't be able to be here without their support. So thank you for their continued support of us here on the show. I'll wrap it up for another week. I'm Chris Pike and leave you with the famous words of the scoring machine.
Real interesting one. They've come out with a schedule. It finished in June 6th. By the time finals hits, it's probably going to be the end of June, beginning of July, and then you're going to, the players will get a little bit time off and then go in straight to the next season. So I'll be interested to see how it kind of plays out in that regard. So they moved the season back a little bit to give these guys a little bit of rest because they've played a lot of games. So, but it's great. Let's hope fingers crossed they can finish the season and we get a real NBL champion and hopefully NBL 1 West season is outstanding as well.